Hello and welcome everyone. Tonight I've got the greatest pleasure to introduce to you Rashina Gajjar, who is an incredible business strategist. Hey Rashina.
Hi Nina.
I am so pleased to have you today. We have worked together before a little bit, so I know what an incredible person you are, and I know what fantastic results you're creating in your life and everybody else's. And today I'm super pleased that you will be able to share all of your wisdom and knowledge with all of our audience. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
What I'd like to start with, because I'm going to dive in straight away, is the fact that you went to your first business meeting at the age of 6. You were 6 years old. So you've been in the business zone for a long time. So tell me all about how it started.
So when I was younger, it's quite an interesting story actually. So when I was 6 years old, my family moved to India for 4 years, and my dad was sent there by this American company to open up a sales office. So you see, it runs in the blood. And he used to have, so his job was literally to start hustling, building clients, building a network. So he had a bunch of clients over from Japan, and guess who was invited? And a lot of his meetings and socializing with these clients were after hours. They'd go to restaurants together, they'd go to, really nice places. And he would always bring me along and bring my younger brother along as well. So we were, I think for him, he's going to be a great business person as well, based on that, I would say. But yeah, we got to meet everyone, and it was really interesting because even though I was so young, whenever I really hit it off with someone, my dad would always say to me, "Are you going to email them?" So I think it was when we were 8 years old, and he set up emails for us. So back when I was 6, I didn't have an email address, but it came later. And it was really interesting. It was really great that he kind of got us into the habit of thinking, okay, am I really hitting it off with someone? Am I going to keep in touch with them, even though we were babies practically?
I love it. Like, this is one of the best stories ever. In a first business meeting at the age of 6, email sorted out by the age of 8. That's absolutely amazing. And now you help your clients to go from being option B to being the obvious choice. So tell me how you're doing it.
So it's quite interesting. So the way that I do it is I split it in 3 parts, right? So that's the messaging angle, the sales element, and also the approach and the strategy, which I think are quite important. When it comes to rising to obvious choice within your industry, for me, a lot of it is about creating something that people can resonate with, that your prospects can resonate with, and also aligning your why to the gaps of the market. I think that's a really important piece, because a lot of the time, brands are always thinking about, like, okay, what is my story, what is my why, but they're not actually thinking, how will this uniquely resonate with the pain points and the gaps of the people who are going to buy into what I offer. So yeah, I think the biggest part for me, at least, that's interesting in all of this is really delving deep into the root of why the founder's doing what they're doing, what compelled them to create this brand, why the brand is like the best option, the best choice within their industry. Because of course there is a reason behind it. I'm not just going to get like a really rubbish company and say, I'll help you become the top company. You have to really believe in it. And often there's a lot of deep potential that's hidden, that you have to kind of chip through and uncover. And when you uncover the real, I guess the core ideas behind the vision, and what really is best aligned with the gaps of the industry, it's about making that more visible. So I hope this makes sense. I know it's quite full on, but
no, it makes total sense. And I really love how you made it quite clear of like aligning the why with what the industry is doing and the needs, and how does that resonate with the clients, to make sure that it's not just you as a business who's clear on it, but also your audience are clear and how that interaction works. I think that was a very clear answer, actually.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
I think you explained it really well. I think because you talked about sales also, I know that you are a big fan of value-centric methodology of sales.
Yeah.
So, and I know you're an excellent sales expert. So can you tell me, why do you think value-centric methodology is better than any other methodology of sales?
So I think that, so obviously there are lots of methodologies that have merit. I think when it comes to specifically online businesses and the tech space, which is a space that I deal with quite a lot, value-centered selling is really helpful because you're selling an idea. So this is the most important thing to remember. So I think this applies for online businesses as well. So consultants, coaches, people who have services, because when you're selling something that's intangible, you can't just go and knock down doors and call people up and say to them, I have the best thing on the market, do you want it? Because you're selling something that they can't physically see. And so when you're selling something that people can't physically see, whether that's software, whether that's a service, whether that's an outcome, you have to really put the value at the center of that, you know, the discussion with the potential customer, but also their buying process. Because otherwise, if you're not, you know, if your prospect isn't clear on the value to them, then they're just going to go and buy something tangible, right? And maybe tangible, if you're a service provider or if you're in the tech space and you're selling software, maybe tangible in that case is them going for hardware or them going to someone who's more established, for example. So I think for me, the reason that value selling had such an appeal to begin with, and is something I continue to use so heavily, it's all to do with conceptualizing something and putting the emotions of what that really means to someone at the center of the process, so that you can make it really clear how it will affect their lives.
I think that's really good. I think that, you know, that connection again of like what it really means to someone and how, you know, what impact it will have on their lives is super important, especially in the service-based industry, because like you say, people can't see the product. So unless you're very clear on what it is and what they're going to get out of it and how is it going to help them, they're not going to have any idea of what you're talking about, and therefore probably not going to buy from you. It's like when people need help, hardly ever do they Google, you know, I want a coach for this or that. Like they Google their issue, like, how do I solve this problem? So that's a really lovely way of explaining and how you have done it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that I've started to see now that I am, you know, out there meeting a lot of people, networking quite a lot, is there are people who literally will bombard you with what they do before even asking questions about you and your life. And I think that's a really classic example of the opposite approach, right? Which is just very much like hammering into someone what it is that you do and hoping that somewhere in their psyche they somehow align with that, right? So I think keeping it centered around the other person is always beneficial.
That's an amazing point, because actually I don't know if you read the book of the What's Got You Here Is Not Going to Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. It came out quite a few years ago. But it basically talks about 17 habits and behaviors that people who are successful are very often, you know, developing, and then they continue to use them. And actually those behaviors or habits are hindering them more than they're helping. And one of them is that very often very good salespeople get into the habit of showing like how much they have done and how good they are and so on. And that takes over the listening part. And actually one of the examples was also between two people, one great salesperson trying to sell the services to someone who was basically wanting to invest their money, quite a lot of money, and he was so into bigging himself up and saying that he worked with these, you know, biggest people here, and he turned over so much money and he invested in so and so. But after the 5 minutes, the guy with the money was like, well, you've told me all about this, but actually I wanted you to listen to me because I am the person who is your client. So if you can't be bothered to listen to me, you probably can't be bothered to look after my money either. So I'm not going to go with you. And that's exactly the point you made. I really like that. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing that I hear a lot, and I was working with a lot of service-based providers when I first started out, and then I kind of decided actually I really want to be helping tech businesses more, because that's my background as well. But when I was talking to a lot of consultants and coaches, they would say to me, well, I have this sales script that I got from a course that I signed up to. And you'd see the script and it's like 3 or 4 pages long. And I just always would have a mini heart attack when I got that, because I think, oh my God, are you serious? So you're just going to continue talking at this person for like what seems like several hours and hope that at the end there's a cash check for you. Like it's just, it's not how the world is working anymore.
Yeah, and hope that at the end they haven't fallen asleep yet. And I think plus if you have got a script, it's not genuine, it's not you, it's somebody else's words and it's somebody else's script. So it's quite hard to come across as an authentic self and come across as someone, confident in what they're saying, because you're saying words that ultimately haven't been created by you.
Yes. And also I think another thing that comes up for me is when people use a script, usually it's because they want something to lean on. They want to feel prepared, but you can't. And this goes back to questioning, right? If you're asking someone their situation and wanting to learn more about them and their problems, that is in direct conflict with the idea of wanting to be over prepared and knowing exactly what to say at what moment. You cannot be prepared and listening, because obviously you have to adapt, and you can't be adapting if you're thinking about what you're going to say next.
Yeah, because then you don't listen. Another excellent point. Thank you. So you've already mentioned one thing. I think, when you talk about people having scripts and so on, but in your experience, what do people struggle with most when it comes to sales?
So I think with selling, there are a couple of different things. I think the first thing is just that a lot of the people that I work with, they don't know what's expected of them. Like they have this vision of sales, which is just very contorted. Because like everyone is always saying, well, we hate selling, we hate sales, we hate salespeople. So they have this idea of like, okay, if I have to sell either my services or my company, like my product, whatever it is, I have to be this salesperson, this like used car salesperson, right? That's the example that's most often talked about. And actually, I think that is a misconception, but it takes a while to allow people to appreciate that they can sell and be themselves. And I think that's a really interesting thing that I learned when I was working for VMware, because I literally was on the sales floor full of like really different people. Like some of them were in their 20s, some of them were in their 50s, they were from all different countries. Some of them were like really introverted, like never talked to anyone but somehow continued to sell. Some of them were like in your face, loud, like obnoxious people. So you'd have like every single human variety, and they were all selling and continuing to make money. And so I thought to myself, wow, everyone really does have their own style of selling, and it's up to you to create that space for yourself within your own self-perception, right? So that you can allow yourself to experiment and say, well, what is my style? And I think that's probably a really big struggle that I've seen, is that people don't even get to that point. They're often like, oh, I don't know how to do sales. And so then it's firstly, you have to realize that you already are selling all the time. And all that means is that if you want to adapt that to a customer, you just have to grow into it more. And I think the second element that people really struggle with is understanding pricing, how to talk about pricing, how to talk about what you're selling in a way that aligns with the expectations of the person you're talking to, and kind of tailoring it around them. And then, I guess in the case of software-based companies, that's how to create a larger deal. And I think in all of these scenarios, it's about understanding the person who's sitting across from you and which parts of what you're offering can and can't align with what they want. And I think part of that as well is understanding that you don't have to work with everyone. Not everyone is a prospect. You don't have to say yes to everyone in selling your services or your products. And actually, sometimes people will respect you a lot more if you say, look, I don't think this is for you, but I know someone who would be great for you. So I think that's another thing that people really need to realize, is that in selling, you're exercising choice, and you don't actually have to always be on for everyone. You can, hello. So that's probably the third element that I've noticed coming up quite a lot.
Wow, that's really a lot of value, I think, for anyone listening, and like so many important lessons. And I really love how you came to learn about sales and everyone having individual style just by observing all the different people and all the different styles and all the different ways of selling, and everyone doing it differently yet still being successful. I think
yes, that was amazing to see. And I think a lot of people have this perception of what it is to be a salesperson, and actually the most effective salespeople are just really relaxed and good. They know what their strengths are. They know how to deep listen to their customers. And if anything, I find the best salespeople are a little bit withdrawn. I found that a lot, because they're always listening. So they're waiting before they give to hear what's actually happening. And so this kind of outdated perception of salespeople as really outgoing and trying to kind of constantly, attack you is very much irrelevant, I think, nowadays.
So many amazing lessons from you. Thank you. I also know that one thing that you say, that over the years, one of the biggest lessons you have had is that multi-million dollar businesses are not being created by fear-based decisions and small decisions. Yeah. Tell me all about that lesson, because I feel like there'll be a lot of hints and tips also amazing for our audience.
Yes. So I think when it comes to business is basically like a personification of you as a founder, right? So when you run a business, like especially in the early stages before you can get help to kind of like compensate out some of those things, I think your business is very much a reflection of you. And so what you see a lot of the time in businesses that are stagnating in terms of their revenue, or businesses that are growing to a certain point and then that they find that they have to do something different but they don't know what it is, a lot of the time it's the psychology that comes into it, right? So your business is only going to grow as greatly as the level of risk that you're prepared to take. So if you take like conservative level of risk or conservative actions, then your business is going to grow like conservatively to a degree, and then that's it, right? So I hope that this is making sense, but essentially what I'm trying to say here is that
for big results, play big.
Yes, you have to play big. You have to, and if your mind is keeping you small in your everyday life, then it's really hard for you to play big in your business. So you have to apply the thinking in every level of existence. So sometimes I meet founders who are like, yeah, like I want things to change, but then they like immediately make an excuse about something or another. And I'm like, if those excuses apply to your life, they apply to your business. So like, remember that. And so yeah, what I said, I think this is on my website, is that fearful actions don't create multi-million-dollar empires.
That's exactly and what I really mean. The quote I was gonna say.
That's it, right? It's literally, if you get to a certain point and something needs to change, often in order to change that thing, you need to change your thinking.
Absolutely. Rashina, this has been so helpful today. Like, there's tons and tons of value for everyone in here, I think. It's been a massive pleasure to talk to you tonight. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and experience. And wow, I'm just still like blown away by the story of you going to your first business at the age of 6.
I was an early bloomer. I feel like I was born as like a 70-year-old. So it's no surprise that my dad was like, yeah, my child is basically 70 on the inside, so I'll just take her to like a bunch of business meetings.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for
having me.
Sharing all your knowledge and experience with us.
Thank you, Nina. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, I just think you're an incredible, incredible person. And anyone who watches this and any of your materials is just so, so lucky. They are blessed. I'm in awe.
They certainly are blessed to have guests like you on here, and everyone who would like to follow Rashina, we'll post all the contact details in the comments underneath, so make sure to check out her website and follow her on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, because all the value that you got today, there is tons and tons more every day coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nina.
Bye.